The answer to the title of this video is very simple. Simply put, because it's ignorant. The end. It's often a stereotype, but there's a tendency to lump all Hispanics into the category of Mexican. But did you know? Not all Mexicans are Hispanic, not all Hispanics are Latin, and not all Latin people are Hispanic. What's more, there are even biases and misunderstandings within these groups. Let's find out a little more.
Because Latinos are racist. They can be very racist. They're racist with others, and they're racist with each other, too. Like Dominicans, some of them think they're better than Haitians because they speak Spanish, right? And Cubans think they're better than the Dominicans because they're a little lighter, and they think they speak better Spanish. And Puerto Ricans think they're better than all of them because they're citizens.
As this clip of Aida Rodriguez humorously points out, even within Latino communities, there are layers of complexities and biases. But this brings us to the importance of understanding the terms we hear often. Hispanic is a term that refers to people who have a cultural connection to Spanish-speaking countries. This includes a vast array of nations, each with its unique culture and history. The terms Latin or Latinos and Latinas are broadly used to describe people from Latin American countries, including both Spanish and Portuguese-speaking regions like Brazil. And Mexican specifically refers to individuals from Mexico, a country with its rich traditions, history, and ethnic diversity. For some, this is an obvious distinction. For others, they feel they can use Hispanic and Latino interchangeably all the time. To not understand the definitions is to be ignorant of other cultures. Mexicans are the second largest racial group in the US after non-Hispanic whites. This prominence often leads to a generalization, labeling all Spanish-speaking people as Mexican. But why is being misidentified as Mexican a sensitive issue for many? To understand, we must revisit the 1950s and 60s, a crucial era for Mexican-American identity. It was during the Mexican-American Civil Rights Movement, yes, you heard that correctly, Mexican-Americans had a civil rights movement. The term Chicano, derived from the Nahuatl word Mexica, was adopted in the US as a proud identifier for Mexican descendants. However, although the Chicano movement led to a good amount of notable reform, much of what occurred was overshadowed by the other tumultuous events that were happening in America at the time. And so, Chicano, and by extension, Mexican, were often used derogatorily by Americans, creating a stigma around these identities. Unfortunately, the term Mexican has been tainted with negative stereotypes and biases. This stigma didn't only affect Mexicans, but also influenced how other Latin and Hispanic groups perceived themselves and each other, often leading to internalized racism. From being used as a racial slur to being associated with illegal immigration, the term carries a weight that many Latinos in America do not want to bear. As a result, they immediately correct and prefer to be identified by their specific national origin, or as Latino or Hispanic, terms that acknowledge their broader cultural heritage without the negative connotations. According to the Pew research, nearly 2/3 of Latinos in the United States prefer to identify themselves by their family's country of origin. And it's not just about negative stereotypes, it's also a matter of pride and a matter of fact. To accept being called something you are not, even if it has a negative connotation associated with it, erases individuals' identities and homogenizes the notion of diverse cultures. Despite shared linguistic and historical connections, these groups have distinct cultural identities. When these distinctions are ignored and one identity is imposed on all, it not only oversimplifies a rich cultural tapestry, but also perpetuates divisions within the community. It's about respect for the unique histories, traditions, and experiences that each Latino in America carries with them. If we narrow in a bit and take a closer look at Mexico, you'll see that it is one of the prime examples of balancing pre-Hispanic civilization with modern-day culture. The civilizations of the Olmec, Maya, Teotihuacan, and Aztecs have left a lasting impact on Mexico. This influence is evident in art, architecture, religious practices, and societal structures that continue to be integral parts of Mexican life today. Traditional Mexican culture, deeply rooted in these ancient civilizations, influences modern Hispanic societies worldwide. The strong sense of family, community values, and festive traditions from the pre-Columbian era continue to be celebrated and integrated into contemporary life. Mexican cuisine, a UNESCO intangible cultural heritage, blends pre-Hispanic ingredients and cooking methods with European influences. This fusion is a prime example of how ancient traditions are preserved in daily life and social customs. The Spanish conquest introduced Roman Catholicism, which merged with indigenous beliefs to create unique religious practices and celebrations, exemplifying the blend of pre-Columbian and European culture. Modern Mexican cities, especially Mexico City, showcase a blend of pre-Columbian and colonial architecture, symbolizing the historical continuity from ancient times to the present. If we refer to the comedy clip at the beginning of the video, that sketch was titled, "Latinos Are Racist Too." And while it may have been a joke, those who laugh at it truly understand and have experienced what she means. Latin America, as we probably know it today, is a huge and culturally diverse region with multiple ethnicities, nations, cultures, and languages. Trying to call this entire region Mexican is the worst way of denying the essence of the Latin American personality. Cultural diversity is one of the factors that made the place diverse in history. The region was formed by indigenous civilization, European colonization, and the African influence through the transatlantic slave trade. Each of these societies created unique language, belief, and social structures, ranging from the Aztecs and Mayans from Mexico to the Incas in Peru and the Guarani in Paraguay. Their cultural heritage is still alive today in defining the identities of present-day Latin American nations. Moreover, European colonization of Latin America by powers like Spain and Portugal also played a role in shaping the cultural landscape. Colonization has influenced modern-day mindsets much more than people would like to believe. And while we will not get into much of that in this video, one example would be the impact of mestizaje ideology. The mestizaje ideology, while promoting a mixed-race identity, can mask the persistence of ethno-racial discrimination in the region. This can hinder the recognition of specific racial issues and challenges faced by minority groups. This was just one instance that many proclaim of how Latin America tried to diffuse the black population. Even though measures have been taken to put an end to this stereotype, the indigenous people of Latin America still find it offensive to be mistaken as Mexicans, as well as many others. It all boils down to Mexican history, the idea of them being an inferior race which they do not want to be associated with. So, when you call a Latin American a Mexican and they frown at it, two things are at play. It's either they are angry at the fact that you ignored their own identity, or their perception about Mexicans is at play at that moment. What are your thoughts about this? Let us know in the comments section below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more updates.